So I just watched the new Sony horror film Escape Room, and it was pretty bad. Back when the trailer was released for this film, I knew I had to see it, as I find thorough enjoyment out of watching horror movies with stupid characters doing stupid things. After watching the film, I kind of got what I wanted out of it, but not really. One thing I didn't realize before going into it is that it's PG-13, because apparently Sony loves making horror movies for babies. I was hoping that this would be kind of a Saw ripoff or something, but I was a little disappointed. It was all unbearably tame. So basically the plot of this film is that 6 people sign up to take part in an escape room experience. You know, one of those kind of popular things right now where you're in a room and you have to find the clues and figure out how to get out of the room. Except this time, if you mess up, you die. Oh no. I can't exactly remember the last time I saw a film with characters so consistently unbearable. The way that each of the characters act in this film is just so fucking annoying. They're all complete assholes, and so often throughout the film, all I could think was, what the fuck is your problem? They're just constantly insulting each other for no reason and acting like complete douchebags. I don't even think it's possible to describe just how irritating these characters are. Anyway, they all receive a mysterious cube in the mail as part of their first test. Each of them figures out how to open it, and that's where they get the invitation from. But there was nothing about the cube that they received that implied that they could even open it in the first place. If a person actually received this, they would probably think that it's a decorative paperweight, but somehow they all know that they're supposed to figure out how to open it for some reason. Throughout the film, there is so much distractingly noticeable ADR. Characters would be looking for clues and solving puzzles while talking out loud to themselves for the audience, and it's so unbearably clear that the moments they're talking to themselves are recorded in post. I am willing to bet money that Sony looked at the first cut of the film and said, excuse me, you can't just show what they're doing, you need to explain it. You need to dumb it down for people. If you want to release this film, you gotta record them talking to themselves so the stupid people in the audience can figure it out more easily. As expected, many of the challenges that the characters faced had obvious alternative solutions that they were too stupid to figure out themselves. We gotta fill up these cups with water so that they weigh enough to activate the mechanism, but oh no, we don't have enough water. What are we gonna do? Just put the cup down and stack some books on it. Christ. Oh no, the key that we need to escape from freezing to death is enclosed in this ice cube. We gotta use our body heat to warm it up. Just take turns pissing on it. God. One of the more frustrating aspects to this film is just how poorly communicated the implied consequences were. If you're in a room that is heating up to the point where it will kill you, you should be drenched in sweat. But no, everybody's gotta look really pretty for the next scene, so fuck it. This is a Sony film. Why would we mess up the female character's hair? At one point, the characters are freezing to death, literally passing out from hypothermia. And in the next scene, they're just fine. Yay, we made it to a moderately temperatured room. That fixes everything. Nobody's shivering, nobody's rubbing their hands together for warmth. I guess their lives were never really in danger and it wasn't that cold at all and they were just faking it because now they're fine. Showing actual consequence in a horror movie? Nah, fuck that. This one's for babies. Alright, I'm gonna get into spoiler talk, so if you don't want to see spoilers for this movie, then I guess just skip to this point in the video. There's your warning. 3, 2, 1. Now, this movie was already pretty stupid throughout, but as it gets towards the end, its stupidity becomes legitimately impressive. There's one girl that was shown in a classroom at the beginning of the film, and the professor's like, hey, did you know about the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, that when you look at particles, it's different from when you're not looking at particles in terms of how they're measured? Okay, great lesson, goodbye. So obviously this comes into play later in the movie. There's a room that's filling up with poison, and the other characters are actually attempting to look for clues and solve the puzzles, but she's like, no, the way to escape is that we can't let them watch us through the cameras because of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. It makes no sense, but this supposedly intelligent character is gonna stick with it. So she spends her time smashing all of the cameras in the room. Once all of the cameras are destroyed, the other characters escape, and we see the poison fill the room as she slowly crawls on the floor and foam comes from her mouth. The film continues following the other characters, but then near the end of the movie, we cut back to the room where she died. 2 characters show up in hazmat suits to do cleanup on the bodies, and they notice an oxygen mask dangling from the ceiling, at which point one of them says, man, I wonder what she was gonna do with that. And she jumps up from the floor and says, survive! And this little girl just kills both of these big guys. She smacks one of them over the head and steals his gun that he brought, and then she shoots the other one like a badass. Not only was that oxygen mask near the ceiling and very far away from where she was on the floor, but if the cameras in the room were destroyed, then why why did you pretend to die for the audience? It's so cheap and lame. Meanwhile, there's one character left that actually solved the puzzles. He makes it to a room where he sees the game master, who proceeds to explain everything to this character. Turns out there's a bunch of super rich people that orchestrated this whole thing for their entertainment. So the main character guy's like, hey, so I beat it, do I get to live or what? And the game master guy's like, haha, no, and tries to strangle him with piano wire. First of all, there's no point explaining everything to this guy if you're just gonna kill him anyway. Second, why not just kill him with an unsolvable puzzle in one of those rooms? He was already the last person standing by the time he got to the final room. He was already the winner. And the way you described this, it wasn't about whether or not they could solve the puzzles, it was about seeing who the last person standing was. Which is funny because they all easily could have just died in the first room anyway. But yeah, don't think about it, it totally makes sense, and this isn't all just a stupid setup so that the girl can show up in the room and save the day with her gun. Obviously, she shows up and saves the day just in time as the main guy is getting strangled. And when they're fighting this guy, his picture shows up on the scoreboard as though he's part of the game now. Like there's someone in a control room watching somewhere that had this guy's photo ready to put up on the board as part of the game. It was pretty funny. So these two characters escape the building and the one guy gets taken to the hospital. And for some reason, the authorities wait a full 24 hours before investigating this building. Like they actually believe her, but they were like, yeah, let's just wait a bit. Hey, are you ready to go back to the building and show us the crazy rich people who orchestrated this whole thing? Okay, great. So they go back to the building and everything's gone. So the police officers are like, you're crazy, and they just leave her there. How convenient that they waited a full 24 hours to even start investigating this series of murders. And also, based on what we were shown, there's no fucking way that they could get rid of all that shit in 24 hours. I don't care how much money and labor you have at your disposal, it is not possible. So at the end of the film, they cut to however many months later, and the girl's like, nah, I really want to figure out what this is all about. Let's go hunt these guys down on our own without the authorities. We can do it. And then it shows these mysterious villains doing a test for an airplane murder death escape room, at which point they casually mention, we've intercepted her flight plans. She'll never survive this one. So what, are they setting up for a sequel or something? It was very dumb. So yeah, this movie made no sense and it was pretty awful overall. It would have been much more enjoyable if it weren't so fucking tame, but I guess toned down PG-13 is the type of horror movie that Sony really wants to make. There are aspects to this film that are pretty funny and I wasn't super bored throughout. It is something you can watch ironically for laughs, but you should also be prepared to feel very annoyed. Also, you probably shouldn't watch this film if you have epilepsy. I didn't see a warning for that, but there's definitely some flashy scenes. Anyway, this movie was a garbage horror film for babies and it sucked. And I'm giving this one a 2 out of 10.